part 3 of 7.3, Coercion and Terror in Lenin's Russia. Let's get started. So, as we can see here in this picture, the worker is sweeping the criminals out of the Soviet lands. This is a poster from 1923. Remember, Lenin will die in 24. The Soviet poster showing a worker clearing the land of the criminals. You see the criminals being swept away. Now, in terms of the broom, we can see the broom right here. This is a unit of the Cheka. This particular unit was assigned to deal with banditry in the area, so they were protecting the people in that sense. But remember, they're also going after class enemies. So, the use of violence. During the consolidation of the Soviet state in the final period of the Civil War, according to Mike Carey, any resistance was harshly punished. This included violent suppression by the Red Army of anti-Bolshevik uprising in Kronstadt, that's by the sailors there, who had been in the vanguard of the revolution in 1921. Even the loyalty of the Red Army was a little doubted as they shot across the ice to take out the naval station on the island, and because there were units of Cheka following the Red Army. Now, in 1921, these violent suppression of anti-Bolshevik uprisings led by revolutionaries who wanted Soviets without communists. They basically wanted Lenin to go back to what they'd had in 1917 under the provisional government. There were also peasant revolts against the Bolsheviks, which were ruthlessly dealt with, such as the Tambov Rebellion of 1920-1921, when the use of concentration camps and poison gas led to hundreds of thousands of peasants being killed. And that uprising was in part due to the rigors of war communism and the violence that the Bolsheviks were practicing upon the people. Now, that might make one wonder, did they stop the violence after the Civil War? Well, according to Mike Carey, under the pressure of these uprisings and disasters, the Bolshevik leaders soon changed their approach and criticized their own excesses during the period they now defined as war communism. So we know economically they're going to switch to now. Now, as threats to Bolshevik control diminished, they shifted away from these emergency measures without relinquishing their party dictatorship or the system of repression that had developed. So no, they didn't step away from it, even once the Civil War was over. And this is an image from a Cheka prison holding cells in Lithuania. Here, we can see there's other policies of repression, and again the theme of the Bolsheviks cleaning up Russia. Here you can see Lenin cleansing Russia of all the elements they don't want, from the Tsarists to the church. There's even a group of people called the militant godless who would go after the church. You can see the bourgeoisie and the capitalists being swept away there too. Now, there was censorship of the press, which became full-scale pre-publication scrutiny of all writings from 1921. And this censorship, of course, allowed Bolshevik propaganda to be that much stronger. There was also Lenin's democratic centralism, which became a vehicle of coercion, with the seven-man Politburo passing orders down to local Soviets rather than policy being developed at a local level and their requests being sent up the line. This is partly a result of the centralized government of the war years and the need for total war. Now, also during the war years, they had allowed self-determination from different areas, such as in Ukraine and Georgia. Once they consolidated more power, they then removed this policy. And as we read from Waller, the communist government also abandoned the earlier support of national self-determination for the ethnic minorities after 1921. Although displays of national culture and native languages were permitted, independence movements were denounced as counter-revolutionary. In 1922, demands from Georgia for greater independence were brutally crushed under the orders of Stalin, a Georgian himself, and the People's Commissar for Nationalities, although his actions were condemned by Lenin. And this is Lenin who's talking about violence moving forward, that terror is a means of gaining an end. And he was even shocked and embarrassed by Stalin's actions. Now, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, was formally established in December 1922. This replaced the Russian Soviet Federal Republic and created in January of 1918, but in practice the difference was minimal. The states that made up the Union were kept under very strict control and, when necessary, coerced from the center, using elements such as the Cheka. This ends the lecture.